This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I have Adam Adams on the line, and we're going to be talking about raising private money. But before we get to that, please, let's pay some homage to my sponsor. Please visit taxfreefuture.com because you will not believe what your financial future, what your 5, 4, 3. Please visit taxfreefuture.com because you will not believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. If you don't have a tax deferred or tax free entire retirement account or financial savings account, man, you're missing out on a big advantage. And we can show you through about 37 videos how, why, when, and how to take little chunks of money and make them into big chunks of money in a relatively short period of time. A lot of great case studies. Taxfreefuture.com because you will not believe what your financial advisors are not telling you. All right, I got my bills paid over here now, so it's time to get into the fun stuff.
Hey, well, tax deferred, tax free accounting with tax free future is fun stuff. That's the stuff. Maybe somebody doesn't think it's fun, but it's important, right? You need that.
First thing is how to make the money, and then after that, you realize very shortly, just like the minute you've made the money, it's like, oh crap, I got to go learn how to keep it now because they want to take it from me. And there's ways, and there's plenty of ways. And the educated keep a lot more of their money, and the uneducated don't. And that's the end of that story. So what we're going to talk about today, though, I find very interesting, and it is one of my favorite topics. I've been doing this for my 22-year career, raising private money. And it is an art. You'll agree, right?
Oh, it is absolutely an art and a science.
Art and a science. So Adam Adams has a course out called Raising Money Secrets. I have a course out called Private Money Changes Everything. Look, I'm open to anything that'll help someone. And if there's something that you've got going that my people need to hear, I mean, I'm not territorial about this stuff at all. So Adam and I had this conversation right before we got on to make sure that he wasn't territorial. He's not territorial either. So I think our hearts are in the right place here. We're just going to give some content and some information and see if we can't help you raise some private money, because it's no secret. Finding the deal is one thing. Funding the deal is a whole nother thing. And the more money you have to fund deals with, the bigger, faster you can grow, and the sooner you can get to your financial freedom or chase whatever dreams you want to chase. But I've raised $14 million from 44 people in my 22-year career. Now, I didn't do that very quickly. I did it over a long period of time because I didn't know any better. And it kind of kept pace with where I was at the time. Like, I didn't need $14 million 10 years ago, And so I always had enough. And if I needed some more, I'd call everybody for references. Funny thing about borrowing money, when you pay people back, they want to give you more money. And they want to refer you to their friends. So I have most of my lenders been loaning me money for over a decade and a half, over a decade, some of them over 2 decades. So when people call my references, they are completely at ease. You know what I mean? So I do need to digress though. Adam Adams, who is he? Where's he been? What's he doing? Let's catch up on Adam real quick and tell us about your journey.
Yeah, sure. So grew up in Utah. My stepfather was a real estate investor, an entrepreneur, and a general contractor. So I grew up putting up walls at our fourplexes, at our condos. I grew up going to tax lien and tax deed auctions. Just a young boy learning how to invest my money or my dad's money. And eventually, my dad was so mad at me that I hadn't yet gotten into real estate myself. I was just in college. And so his way of correcting the problem child, the black sheep, if you will, was he actually bought me a piece of land and he gave it to me and for Christmas. And then he didn't ask me, he made me, he told me. Then he said, now you have to pay me.
Already, man.
Now you have to pay me. So I was like, wait a second. I thought this was a Christmas present. You paid for it, and you're asking me to pay you the exact amount that you paid for it. It's just like I went and bought it. And he's like, well,
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, but you have equity, and you're going to learn a lot. And I was like, whatever. And then about a few months later, it was October the next year, I got a tax bill. And I was like, what is this, Dad? Like, why do I have to pay taxes? What did I do? Like, what did I do wrong that the government's making me pay them? And he was like, that's normal. And I was like, so another $100? I have to like work 2 extra weeks to get that extra $100. Anyway, long story short, it was one more year after that first tax bill. The second tax bill came up and someone offered to buy it for way more than I bought it for. And so I made about 12 grand on the piece of property. And that was kind of my decision where I just said, I got to be involved. So anyway, I studied Robert Kiyosaki, and I don't know if you knew this, Mitch, but Robert Kiyosaki, even though he might preach to buy a single family rental, even though he tells you to do that, he doesn't do that himself. He was doing multifamily. That's how he got his money. And so I was like, okay, learn what he's doing, not necessarily what he's saying. So I started immediately in 2007. I managed multifamily properties, turned a $1 million property into a $2 million property, made the owner $1 million, and it took me a year to do it. And I made $10 an hour, and it was awesome. And then I said, all right, now that I have the experience and I can actually make someone $1 million in just a year, I need to do this for myself. So it was 2008, a little over about a dozen years ago, when I started getting into multifamily. And so that's really where I started. And lately, about 2 years from the time we record this, I decided to actually syndicate. So do you guys ever talk about syndication on the show, Mitch?
I haven't talked about it. I probably should, but it's not like something that I've been interested in myself.
Okay.
But I probably need to talk about it because maybe I'm not interested in it because I don't understand all about it. So maybe we can do that on a show one time. We'll talk about syndication.
Okay. Well, anyway, the short of it is to syndicate, you have to learn how to raise private equity. So that's really where we learned it. And most of the equity that we've gotten, I mean, it's kind of strange. I would have never thought this before, but it all came from our meetup group, a meetup group that we've been running for the last 2 years.
Okay. So I may share a commonality then. When I at a point in my career, I needed to raise some more money pretty desperately. I say desperately. I was fine. It's just I had a lot of deals that I couldn't buy that I wanted to buy because I didn't have enough money. And so I started a meetup, and I held it the same day. I only did it once a month. I held it the same day of the month every month. So like the second or the third Thursday of every month. And then I'd have a meeting. I'd have a lunch. And since I already had the room and the setup and the sandwiches and the Cokes and the water and the chips and everything, I also had a choice for in the evening at 7. So I just got a room for and every third Thursday, you could either come to my luncheon or you could come to my little happy hour mixer, and
I love that.
And listen.
That's awesome.
So yeah, right after every meeting, I started promoting the next month's meeting. I had 3 weeks or, a month to get that room. And but unlike you, I never really had a lot of people there, but it even goes to show sometimes there was only 3 or 4 people at my lunch, but it didn't matter. They were there for a reason. They were someone to talk to. And I had told myself I was going to do this for a year, no matter if no one showed up on a day or at a lunch. I was going to commit to do it for a year. I was going to have 12 days that I was going to have this meeting. I had to quit after 6 months because I wasn't sure I could get out the money, all of it. So, and I didn't have the numbers you had. So let's talk about your meetups and how do you get all these people there?
Yeah. Here's a few hacks. One of the things that we would do is one of the things that you mentioned, and that is to always be promoting the next meeting. So that's very important. And most people miss that. Most people, they kind of like are always behind the 8 ball. And I could tell that you were already ahead. And when you're at a meeting and people are high on the meeting, on meeting people, on learning, on wanting to be involved in, whatever it is your meetup's about, let's just say real estate, because that's what the podcast is about. All of a sudden you can mention, hey, next month we're going to do this. And not only just mentioning it, which is a huge benefit, but also telling them why they can't miss that one. So I've seen a lot of people that do meetups and they have a meetup group and it's just like, oh yeah, we just meet and we just hang out once a month or once a week. All we do is just hang out and get network with each other. And then when it comes up to a meetup, and most people listening, if they know what meetup is, they've found themselves in this situation. They RSVP, and then it comes to the date of the meetup, and all of a sudden they're like, my kids have this, I've got a showing, I've got this other thing, maybe I won't go. And because that meetup was planned out in a way that, we just do the same thing every month, it's not a big deal, we're always here, then there's no urgency. There's no reason for them to get a babysitter. There's no reason for them to extend, a closing or whatever. But if they knew that this one meetup was going to change their future, then they're like, oh man, okay, I got to get that babysitter because I have to be there. So that's one of the things we do.
And I recognize, I saw that fallout. I started when people would RSVP, I would start to call them or have someone call them these days and say, I just saw your RSVP. I want to make sure. And then, are you a vegan or do you have any special? Because I'm going out of my way. I'm making this plate for you. I'm ordering and spending money to kind of like obligate them in a subtle way. Like, don't stand this guy up. He went out of his way for you.
I love that. That's brilliant. That is excellent. Other things that we do would be to, we just use the private messages. So you are doing, you've got some excellent ways of marketing, Mitch, and that's
to me, like, I didn't think about make the next meeting it's got to be unique all the time, so that they can't just say what you said. Well, I'll make the next one next month, because they're all the same. I didn't get that. See, I'm learning too. That's one reason I love to be the host of a podcast, is because I learn stuff myself, from other people just like you. That's one of the great things. So let's keep going. So you got this podcast, you made them RSVP, you're always promoting the next event, and you're always making the next event somehow unique, and there's not going to be another one like it, so that people don't flip out on you. Then I suggest call them and obligate them to, or come to the conclusion that this man is counting on me. He's spending some money on a plate and a dinner for me, and I, make it harder for them to say, I know you plan to have a plate for me, but I'm just not going to come. So that's where we're at in the conversation. You got a lot of people to yours.
Yeah, it's been insane. But one other thing that you can do just on that topic is using the DMs, that's a direct message, or the private messaging through Meetup group. And you can say something like, hey, my groups, I don't know if everybody does this, but my groups, we have questions. So people answer questions when they join the group. So if I've never met them before and they just RSVP'd, I send them a message. Okay, let me back up. Okay, you're talking if people have RSVP'd, and I meant to say when people haven't yet RSVP'd, but they're in the group. So this is just a way to get more people to start thinking about it, and use the trick that you have, Steve. Steven, that's your last name. Mitch.
One does it. Mitch, Steve. We got two first names.
So the one thing that you've done is you kind of give them some accountability, and I can do that also when they have not yet RSVP'd. So I'll say something like, hey, welcome to the group. I don't know if you're going to the meetup on Friday, but I noticed that you've been so I read their bio. I noticed that you've been doing wholesales for 3 years, and that's awesome. I'd love to talk to you more about that. Maybe we could talk at the meetup on Friday. And then I put a question mark. So it's people that they haven't even planned on coming, but all of a sudden they're like, oh, he took an interest in me. He noticed that I've been doing this, and I want to, go and hang out and see what this person's all about, because you're kind of going out of your way to chat with somebody.
It's a difference in a generic invitation and a personal invitation. So what you did, you made it personal, right?
Absolutely.
I'm putting down here, make your invitation as personal as possible.
Yeah. So other things that we've did, we tried to, have a no sales pitch event. We tried to let people talk about who they are. I studied by going to a ton of different people's meetups, and I noticed how much better I felt when I had the opportunity to just say, hey, my name's Adam Adams. I buy apartment complexes with my friends. If you guys want to be my friends, come and talk to me. And so that, like, if I could at least say that in someone else's meetup group, I would feel like at least if somebody wanted to buy apartments with me, they would come and talk to me because they knew what I was doing. But if I didn't have the opportunity to share, then it would be more difficult because I would actually have to go and shake everybody's hand and ask them a bunch of questions until they were willing to ask me, what do I do? And then I could say, I buy apartments with my friends. But it was just so much more valuable when the leader, whoever organized that group, allowed everybody in the meeting to introduce themselves.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I had a problem on my first, and I don't want to change your train of thought, but I had a problem at first. When people came, I didn't have any, they weren't signing in, they weren't registering, I mean, I didn't know who was there. I didn't have their personal information or their cell phone number, or I didn't have anything on them. People were showing up that RSVP'd, but so I made sure the next time that I had a spreadsheet that they had to fill it out to get into the room or to get their plate. And then as people started to rise above, as they started to rise up, and some of them would rise up higher than others in interest level of loaning me money, when I was talking about this stuff, I would kind of give the eye to the girl and said, don't let that person leave without me talking to them. You know what I mean? Because what happens is after you finish talking, people come up to you, and the people that don't have a one thin dime to give you occupy all your damn time. And the millionaire guy's walking out the door because he's busy, and he's a different caliber guy, and they don't linger long. You know what I mean? So I was missing these guys going out the door. So I started, like, when I was talking to somebody, I'd look up at the girl, and that was the signal for, that's the guy right there. Don't let that guy go.
I like that. That's cool.
And it helped a lot too. All right, so keep going. How do we get everyone? How do you just get the word out that you have this meetup?
Great question. What we do, there's two things that I'll share. One is collaborating with other meetup organizers, one of my favorite ways, because you can kind of hack into their whole network. And so you'll maybe partner with somebody who has a meetup group in your area. So Mitch might have his Wednesday night bar meetings. I think you used to have those, right? 100 people coming. And so what you might be able to do is also collaborate with like 2 other meetup organizers and just say, hey, I want you to talk about wholesaling, and I want you to talk about fix and flipping, and you should bring your whole groups. And so, like, I'll know your people, you'll know my people, we'll both know John's people, John will know your people and my people. It'll grow all of our network. So let's do this together. Let's collaborate. So that's one thing that I've done, is just make a bigger thing, bigger than ourselves, bigger than just me, bigger than just my meetup, where it's something where people can get behind it, because like we said before, they want to have a meeting where it's something that they've never been before, and they can't get it again. You'll never partner with these 2 meetup organizers ever again, right? So that's one way you can bring a lot of people and they start to get to know you. And the other way that I was going to share is just how you market, right? So most people, all they do is just click up on Meetup, and they add their meeting to their Meetup group. But what you can do to be like, get in front of a lot more people, is start taking pictures while you're at your other Meetup groups, start talking to people one-on-one, start posting on your Facebook, start posting on your LinkedIn. And so you kind of start to market it everywhere. Those are the 2 ways that I would say to really grow that meetup. And then one thing that I would share also is just the email list. Some people don't even use the email list of the group that they have. They don't regularly send those emails. And then going back to what you were saying about having people get on the list in the first place, a lot of people, Mitch, tell me, did you feel this way, or did you notice that people wanted to dodge the sign-in sheet? Did you ever notice that? Okay.
Yes, and that brought me to the conclusion of why I started doing things a little different. And whenever you're ready, I'd like to give that idea.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt your flow here. So
yeah. So let me just finish this one thought, and then we'll bring it to what you're going to say, because what you're going to say is awesome. What I did, because I didn't know your cool strategy, is what I did is, instead of having someone else besides me at that table, I started going to the table. And because I truly love people, I truly am genuinely happy to see people. So, and especially if I've never seen them before, I want them to feel welcome. So I just said, I'm not going to let other people run that table, because if other people run my sign-in sheet, I'll get half of the people signing in. And so what I did is I was there, but instead of sitting down, I stood up when they walked in. As soon as somebody walked in, I would stand up. I'd be like, my name's Adam. It's so good to meet you. Or welcome back, John. It's so good to meet you. And then I would talk to them for a second. And then I'd be like, we need to catch up. Here, sign in. And then I'll meet you in there. And I slide the sign-in sheet over to them. And it's hypnotizing. It's hard to explain, but all of a sudden you become connected with each other, and then you just slide that over and you're here, just sign that and we'll go talk in there. Then when they're signing it, they're not like, oh, I don't want to sign this. They're more like, oh, this is just what I do, because
you're talking about having a personality, engaging someone and making them feel warm and wanted. It's not rocket science, although if you don't plan to do that, in the hustle and bustle of a meeting, you'll miss out on that one most important thing. You have to really think about these things to get the most out of them. They're orchestrated in a way, but only orchestrated on paper. It should be all natural to you when you go to step one. I'm going to be at the front door. I'm going to greet people with enthusiasm, try to recall their names. If I don't know their names, this is what I'm going to say to them, and just get that kind of planned out. But it's no wonder, because I didn't do that either. I had someone else, not my face out there. I like your way better. More engaging. You're really the guy they wanted to meet anyway, probably. You know what I mean? And yeah, so here I go. I got another lesson learned from me. Okay.
So now share your way. Share your way, because this is something that I need to interview you on my podcast to get your brilliant mind out there. I love what you're doing. Share that.
Well, I own a company called Livecom, LIVECOMM.com. And you buy phone numbers there for $2 a month. You get to pick your own area code or whatever. And every phone number comes with a text distribution list, and it collects numbers of incoming callers who use their cell phone. So it collects incoming cell phone numbers. So anyone who calls a Livecom number, if they call from their cell phone, it's going into this text distribution list, that you can text anytime you want to at will from your phone or from your computer. And so what I did was I had this bar that wasn't doing too well, and Wednesday was my slowest day. And so I thought, I'm going to hold a real estate meetup to try to use a little bit of my whatever celebrity I have in San Antonio to get some people to come. And I really wasn't as interested in the meetup, although I wanted to deliver value. But I needed to get some butts and some chairs, drinking some beer and eating some burgers at this place that I was part owner in. And Wednesday was just horrible. And so I ran this meetup, and it said, San Antonio real estate investor, I don't remember what the name of it was, but San Antonio real estate investor meetup at the Cold River Saloon. Here's who's invited. And I explained what the meetup was about and who was invited. Basically, if you were in any way related to the real estate industry, be it a carpet layer or a real estate broker or investor or whatever, and I spelled out everybody so maybe they would recognize themselves, even if they weren't like an agent, like say a remodeler. Well, I'm not in the real estate business. Well, hell, you're not. You remodel real estate. You remodel houses. So I put remodel in there, So anyways, I gave them all the information, and then I said at the bottom to find out what time and what day each week and what time on that day, call this number. So if they were interested at all, they had to call the number to find out. When they called the Livecom number, I captured their cell phone number. And then so this was happening automatically. And then I went into Livecom and I pre-scheduled that every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and at 5 p.m. that we would send out a text to everyone on that list to remind them that the San Antonio Investor Meetup was at 7 o'clock tonight. Please don't forget, we're looking forward to meeting you. And so that was automated. So really all I did was I just showed up at my own meetings and more people were coming to this meeting, and I wasn't doing anything other than, I would sometimes send out a text, free beer if you bring a friend, whatever I could say legally, and I don't know, Wednesday became my best weeknight. It went from the worst to the best, and it was largely due to that automated capture of the cell phones and the automated text messages going out with reminders. And then every now and then, when I had an idea how to ask these people to bring more people, I would send out that text, manually, and send it out to everybody, and like have a contest. Whoever brings the most people gonna win a free burger and fries. Or I don't know what it was, just something to make it interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go. So I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, it works, but it was just, see, to me, unless it's the 4 housewives that like to get together to walk their dog at lunchtime twice a week, I mean, they don't really need that kind of stuff. But if you're trying to build a group, I think that every administrator should know about LiveCom, should know about that tactic, because it's just so automated and so easy and so inexpensive that I don't know why every meetup in the country or 90% of the meetups wouldn't use that kind of theory,
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And how you're using it is perfect. So, and I would get LiveCom. I think that's awesome. And it's LiveComm.com, right?
Yeah, as in live communication, COMM.
Yeah, so that's just awesome. And regardless if you're using it or not, the strategies that you're employing here are perfect. You're getting them a message at 10. So toward the morning, they're already starting to see themselves at the meeting. They're already planning to be at the meeting.
Yeah, they got to plan their day. They got to let nothing get in the way of that 7 o'clock thing if they want to come. I'm warning them at 10, and then I'm trying to give them a little bump at 5. Said, hey, don't forget in a couple hours. And I can see people all over town going, oh yeah, almost forgot.
Yep.
I can hear them clapping their foreheads all over town.
Yep. So that's just awesome. Like the way that you're doing that. And then one of my favorite things, so I host real estate conferences, and I've been doing meetups for a couple of years as well. And one of my favorite things is to do things like you're saying, if you have the opportunity to say, whoever brings the most people, wins a free ticket, wins a free beer, wins a free meal. Whoever brings the most. Hey, by the way, anybody on today only, if you buy a ticket today only, or if you get a ticket, or if you RSVP today only, you get 2 for 1 or whatever. Like those things are genius, because you're allowing the people that are coming to the meeting to start promoting for you. You allow the attendees to start doing the marketing. It's genius.
I remember one of the things I did, because I would always go out to eat after that, someplace where I kind of quiet or whatever after that thing. And it was usually, so I one time I told whoever brings the most people gets to have dinner with me, after the thing, or gets to go to where I go after a meetup like this, just to kind of come down and relax and then head home, and that was the one that seemed to bring more people wanted to spend that hour with me than anything else I offered. So, I was going to go sit down anyways and do whatever. So I try to make my prizes or the gifts something that fit me naturally anyways. So I'm not really doing anything extra.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah. So Mitch, what else do you want to talk about? We have so many things we could talk about.
Well, you were talking about the private money and the branding. First of all, do you see certain pockets of people potential? Because I see pockets. I see attorneys and CPAs is usually a place you can start to shop, because and how I do this. What's the word? Clever, well thought out. I don't know. So I just call, when I get on a binge to find money, I start setting appointments with all kinds of real estate attorneys or contractual attorneys, or even litigator or foreclosure attorneys. And I just say, I'm looking to get the free consult. I'm trying to find the attorneys that are going to be in my roundtable. I need 3 or 4 different kinds of attorneys. I understand you're involved in real estate. I'd like to come show you my business, tell you what I'm into, and see if you're my go-to guy for some problems I either have or I'm anticipating, that I might have. And of course, everyone gives you the free consultation. And the first thing you have to do is, well, let me explain to you my business. And I never really ask people for money. I just explain it to them. And if they want to play, they'll plug themselves in. But I do a lot of NLP, which is like making them ask the question I want them to ask me. I get them to open up the door to walk into the room instead of me opening the door and guiding them in. I get them to pull me into the room because it's a different thing. When you start asking people to borrow money, the first thing they do is they get in that stance,
Yep.
They get in the boxing stance. If they ask me, there's a way. So let's just say I wanted to get you to ask me what I did for a living. So let's role play. You're anybody but who you are. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an architect, just anything but what you are right now. And role play with me. So Adam, you're very sharp. I noticed you're a very sharp dressed man. And I noticed you have a really nice watch. May I ask what you do for a living? You seem very successful.
All right. So, and then I would naturally tell you that I'm an attorney and that
You know what? I thought about being an attorney for a long time, but I ended up taking a different path.
What path did you take?
I know you can hardly not ask, right? You can hardly not ask. And you know what I do? I help average people achieve above average rates of return on their money. And I give very, very valuable Texas real estate as collateral. It's mostly for people who are sick and tired of living for a ticker tape. You ever want to talk about that? Let me know. Okay.
Yeah. Tell me more.
See, so I get you to ask that. So then we go into this attorney's office and we would say, well, let me show you what I do. I buy houses at steep discounts. So let's just say I have this $100,000 house. I can buy it for $50,000. Well, I borrow this $50,000 from an entity and I pay it 8% interest only for 5 years. And I give them a first lien on this property. And don't you think that entity is pretty well paid at 8%? I mean, don't you think that's a good rate of return, Adam? A decent rate of return?
Ooh, what if I wanted a higher return?
No, well, there's other things that are riskier, but I'm doing,
there you go.
This entity either gets paid 8% or it gets my $100,000 house, which they have $50,000 invested in. Return is based on risk. So I mean, given the risk, don't you think this is a fair return? Because there's not much risk. Do you think it's a fair return?
Yeah, I do actually.
You think the entity's pretty protected?
Yes, very.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I just hang on this entity thing that they say, who's the entity? I'm trying to get them to say, who the hell is this people? Because usually if they're business people at all, when you tell them I'm borrowing money at 8% interest only for 5 years, if they're about 80% of the time they're business people, they'll just come right out and go, who's loaning you that money? That happens a lot without even provoking a businessman.
Okay.
Because a businessman wants to know. But if they don't ask that right off the bat, you say, now, don't you think this entity is pretty protected? And don't you think, given the minimal amount of risk this is, that this is a fair return for this entity? This entity's, they've done well over the years. I'm begging them, what's the entity? Once they say, who is loaning this money? You take off your glasses, you lean back in your chair, and you go, well, Adam, they're private people that got sick and tired of gambling in the stock market. They used to be worth about twice as much, but they got cut in half in the last downfall. They're never going back, and they've got their money in 1% and 2% CD rates. Why? Do you know someone that needs this kind of help? Now, I didn't ask him if he wants to loan me money. He automatically plugged himself in. I'm trying to keep him out of that boxing stance. You know what I mean? So I didn't ask him. I said, do you know someone we can help? 30% of the time I get to that conversation, yeah, hell yeah, I know someone, me. That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's how I'm kind of using to get in the door with the CPAs. I get myself in a position where I have to explain my business. And I concentrate on the money part of the business to try to get them to start asking me questions about where am I getting this money so I can inadvertently, subtly pitch them.
Absolutely. I like that.
That's where I'm headed. So how are you? That's how I'm doing. How are you doing it?
Yeah, we're opposites, and I love that. I love that we're
cool because either way works to apply yourself, right?
Yeah. So we just brand ourselves, and we just keep providing content until somebody just comes up to us and says, hey, I'd like to put 100 grand into your next deal. So that's our way. We don't have conversations. We don't have we don't sit down with people until they say, I've been watching you and I trust you. I want to put my money with you. Can we talk? Or can we sit down? Or do you mind if we do a phone call? So that's really how we've been doing it. So it goes like we have a podcast, and I know that your podcast gets the same type of thing. You keep providing value. You have people that say, Mitch, I've been listening to your podcast for however long. I just want to put my money with you. That I know happens to you because it happens to me, and you're better at it, right?
No, it has happened to me. The last $1 million I got was from Memphis, Tennessee, and I got 500,000 as little as 4 months ago out of Florida, and they just said, I have a pretty wide net, and I've been doing it for a long time, so I have a lot of content to put out there. Sometimes they said, well, I read your book, and then I was listening to your podcast, and the main thing they said, though, in all cases was, I've been listening to you long enough, and you're so consistent in your integrity that you can't fake that. They figure, if you're a fake, you could get me on one episode, or you could have wrote one chapter in the book about your integrity. But it says every time someone brings up something on your podcast or in your interviews or whatever that doesn't seem integral, you pull them to the side in the conversation and say, hey, well, probably don't want to do that, or let's try to do this so a little more win-win for everybody, and I'm always pointing that out. And people start to recognize the integrity of who you really are. And I think that's really important. So by having these meetups and getting up and talking to people and showing how fair and balanced everything is, you're showing that you have integrity, that you're trying to get wins and all the check boxes for everybody.
Yeah.
And people appreciate that.
Yeah.
So have you raised a lot of money from your podcast?
I haven't raised, okay. It's hard to explain exactly where all the money comes from. I know that we've raised 5.2 from our meetup group because that's very measurable. From the podcast, I can tell you what I have gotten is people that started to know me, and then they found out that I had a podcast, so they listened to the podcast. And after several months, that's when they decided, hey, I like you, I want to invest with you. But I don't have I might have 2 investors total that came organically from just the podcast. We never met them. Like, we're listened to in several countries, right? So some of the people that listen, you've never met them. And so I can really only point out 2 times that's ever happened. And I'm pretty sure they've both invested with us. And then I've spoken, it helps me to speak at other people's events, right? So that you get off a stage and people come up and, hey, I want to put my money with you. You host your events. That's been the best because people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And it's the easiest to do that in person. It's easier to get to know somebody, like them, and trust them when you can see them, see their facial expressions and all that. So the meetup's been a huge benefit for our business. On our raising money secrets that we mentioned before, what we teach people how to do is figure out who is their target audience, right? And I teach them to raise money the way we raise money. So first, think about your target audience and think about what they want to know. And so if your target audience is, somebody who is a accredited investor, is worth over $1 million or whatever, what you want to find out is, what is my target audience doing? Where are they spending their time? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they going to meetups? Are they searching for this on Google? Just really think about who that person is and how they think. And when you can dissect that enough, you can find a way to answer some questions. You can answer the questions like, what do they want to hear? And then I'm going to create the content for that. So you might do something like, here's the 5 ways to protect yourself. So I buy multifamily. And so I want to attract somebody to me. So I'll tell them, this is the 5 things you need to watch out for in an operator. If you're going to invest your money passively with a multifamily syndicator, these are the major things you need to watch out for. And then I'll actually add that content to people, and the people that are about to put the money out are the ones watching it. They're the ones that care the most. And then at the end, I can say, hey, well, I only had time to share 5 of them. There's 5 others. I have this white paper of the 10 things that will help you to be able to invest your money passively. If you want to get all 10, easy enough. You just download it. You just put in your email, and you'll have the 10 things. Now, if I added enough value in the first 5.
That's a little bit, just FYI, let's don't gloss over it. You just generated a lead that you can now reach out to because you had to get your information to give them the 5 things, which is part of the tactic, I'm sure, but I didn't want to gloss over that.
No, you're absolutely right. And in the Raising Money Secrets course, I mean, it's 13 different modules, and it starts by figuring out who that person is that you're wanting to know. Then you figure out where they are. Then you figure out this and that. And then you start to understand, who are you? What kind of content can you generate? Or do you want to do Facebook Lives? Do you want to do Facebook posts? Do you want to do a podcast? Do you want to do a blog? Do you want to do a meetup group? And so we help you understand who you are and which of these can benefit you the most. And then we kind of keep going through to help you create what I was just talking about and what you mentioned. It's a funnel, it's you want a wide mouth funnel. You want to have a lot of people seeing what you're doing. And then you want to be able to offer enough value that they are willing to give you their email address. And now you can start giving them more content through the email address. And you might say something like, hey, I know I gave you the white paper of the 10 things. Here's 2 things that I never thought about that are very important. And then you just write 1 email to all of these passive investors to help them understand those 2. And sometimes I've noticed that people are like, man, if I really spent all of the time to just go through all those 10 things with every single person, it would take me forever. But I've already know that Adam does these things. So Adam, do you just want to take my money? I've got $1 million I need a place in the next year.
Right.
So,
right. We could talk for a long, long time. I'm aware of how much time I'm taking of yours. I know you have a hard stop, don't you?
I do.
All right. Do we have any time left at all?
We're not too close. We have some extra time.
Okay, cool. So just let me know when we're getting close, okay? Because I don't want to make you late for your next appointment. But this is a big subject. Between the 2 of us, we could probably talk a half a year on this. You know what I mean? So,
and it would be fun. And we definitely need to record it. And we definitely need to share this with everybody because, we've got some good strategies.
Yeah, so a lot of times I'm showing people how I make money. Because after I show them how and who I'm borrowing the money from, and I get past what I really wanted to do was see if they're remotely interested in loaning me money, then I take another step and I show them how I make money. And I make a lot of money, and I show them a couple of case studies on, this is one I did, sometime this year, and these are typical, very typical. And I show them, and inevitably, at the bottom line, I'm making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, whatever. Inevitably, they say, well, why? They like, I caught you. You've given up all your secrets. And then they say to me, well, why don't I just do what you do and make all that money and just do that? And so, it's all about, my dad was a salesman, and he said, never go to sleep when there's an objection you couldn't answer. Don't go to sleep till you figure out the answer, because next time you'll have it in your back pocket what the answer is. So they kept doing that to me, and I finally came up with the perfect answer. I would say, well, don't do what I do. Why would you do what I do? Just do what Tom Brady does. He makes like $35 million a year. Just do what he does. And they go, well, I can't. Okay, I get it. I can't do what I do either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the other, because before that I was saying, that's okay, doctor, go ahead. Call the building, tell them you're going to cancel your lease, pay the early cancellation fees, fire all those people, do the severance with them, take that placard off the wall that you spent 7 years with and still owe $200,000 on, and just let's go get in the house business. Let's do it. They're not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And one of the things that I'll share, and I do it intentionally, just to, hopefully the listeners getting good value out of this. I do it intentionally. I mention how hard it is to do our business. I have 7 people on my team, right? Only one person focuses 100% on asset management. One person a separate person focused on nothing but the administrative duties. One person, just one, focused on all acquisitions, getting their name out. One person, only one, focused on just underwriting deals all day, every day. We make good money, but it's not simple. It's not easy. There's a lot of moving parts. I run a podcast. I'm full-time at speaking at events, hosting events, speaking at podcasts, and going on interviews on podcasts. This is like my job role, right? So I do that full-time, and that way the whole rest of the team can do what they do. And that helps a lot. And I always say, if you want to do that, that is the best way to make the money, to make even more money, because you're making.
It's not passive. It's not passive. And what we're offering is, that's the other thing. They say, well, why don't I just do what you do? I said, you can if you want to, but that's another job. I have a job. I mean, I have a thing that I got to wake up and do every day. I'm sorry. I thought you just wanted some passive mailbox money. I thought you just wanted to wake up and get some money.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're exactly right.
Go ahead.
The only passive money is when you're literally being passive. A rental's not passive. But
see, I don't even believe in the word
lender is a passive. What? You don't?
I don't believe in the word passive. I think it's like a oxymoron. You know, if you think about passivity, I mean, you're burning energy when you sleep. So how can owning something on top of that be passive? I like to say, what was it? I changed. Financial freedom happens when your wants and your needs are exceeded by your passive income. I changed passive to the word. Financial freedom happens when your wants and your needs are exceeded by your cash flow. I took the word passive out because even if you have $100 million and you got it invested at 4%, you think that's passive? Well, just don't watch what's happening with that money every day and watch what happens to your money. It'll go away. It will go away if you don't watch over the people that are watching your money. You got to watch.
Smart, very smart.
Well, man, we're going to have to maybe have a continuation of, continued segment B or something. I'm going to talk to Julie about it. We'll talk a little bit more about some private money stuff. I want to thank all the listeners for taking time to stop by and get you some Adam Adams. And hope you learned a little bit about the meetup groups. You've actually got me inspired because I am on a private money raising binge myself. I want everyone to go to ariinvestorsummit.com/Adam Adams. Adam, A-D-A-M, Adams, A-D-A-M-S. And I want you to check out his course, Raising Money Secrets. It's all there in the show notes. He's going to have a giveaway also. He's going to give away 4 10-minute videos on raising private money. And if you just get over there to ariinvestorsummit.com/Adam Adams, that'll be over there. And by the way, Adam, it's evergreen. If you got things you want to add to those show notes, if you have any other giveaways you think about, if you've got a promo, if you've got a speaking event, if you have a meetup you want them to join, whatever it is, when my people call your people, have them put it all in there, and we'll get some real value. If people are hungry for more of you, then there'll be plenty of it there at ariinvestorsummit.com/Adam Adams. I'm sorry. I saw we ran out of time. I feel like we're cutting both ourselves short. This is a great subject and it's near and dear to my heart.
It's been fun. Thank you.
You want to do another little continuation of this with me?
Let's do it.
All right. We'll do that. And hopefully maybe I can be on your show sometime.
Oh, you're 100% invited. I want to learn more about your, say the .com, something.com, telecom.com?
Livecom.com.
Livecom. Thank you.
COMM.com. I'll put that in the show notes myself. I'll make a note for them to put it in there in case you want to reference it and don't know how.
Yep. I need to look into it. It's awesome.
Watch the video on the homepage and find out why I have 9 days on the market and average 12% down on my houses that I sell with owner financing for 30-year fixed. I invented it because there was a need. It doesn't sound original in the future. There's a lot of phone companies doing some things, but when you start looking at it closely, there's subtle differences that I had to go invent it myself because they weren't doing what I wanted it to do exactly and how I wanted it to do it. And at a price, sometimes when they were doing it, you just couldn't afford it because they were just priced like out of the way I wanted to use it. I was going to spend a fortune. So I tried to make it affordable. Go there, check that out. And you have a podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Creative Real Estate Podcast.
Creative Real Estate Podcast. I knew that. I'm going to put that in the show notes also. Creative Real Estate Podcast. All right. This is Mitch Stephen. I want to say thank you to taxfreefuture.com because you have no idea what your financial advisors are not telling you. Please go to taxfreefuture.com and check it out. 37 videos over there, short vignettes you're going to find very interesting. All right, my friends, thank you for stopping by to get you some Adam Adams. This is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. We're going to be back with Adam Adams again just because of just a wealth of knowledge, and there's so much to know about raising money in these meetups. So until then, we'll see you in a bit. Bye, Adam.
Take it easy.